Welcome, fellow do-it-yourselfers. This is another video for the General Car Concept series, and we're going to talk about the Tire Pressure Monitoring System, TPMS for short. Many of you don't even know your car has a TPMS in it. If your car can tell you if your tires are low on an inflation, then it means you have it. And if you have this symbol on your dashboard, that also indicates that your car is able to determine if your tires are properly inflated. The reason why manufacturers offer this feature is it makes the vehicle more safe, right? The tires are properly inflated, and it improves gas mileage because it makes sure the tire pressure is within range. Again, these symbols, actually it's the same symbol. One, it can be in 3 states: off, solid, or blinking. If it's solid, it usually indicates, each car is different, right? But look at your owner's manual. But generally speaking, if it's solid, it means one or more of your tires is low on inflation. And if it's blinking, it indicates there's a TPMS system issue. And many times when this indicator comes on, an audible tone will be heard. So what happens is the tire is rotating, and once the tires get up to at least 15 miles an hour or so, depends on the system and car and make, the TPS sensor in each tire will send out information, and the TPMS will look at that information, and if one or more of the tires, including the spare, if it's a full spare, if it's low on an inflation, the TPS indicator on your dashboard will illuminate solid, and many times an audible tone will be played. I suggest when this happens that you pull over, sort of as soon as you can, and check out your tires. Make sure to also look at the spare. That's a common overlooked tire to look at, and people have come to me, my light won't turn off. I'll say, did you check your spare? And they have this look in their eye like, oh no. Anyway, it's a common thing. Just thought I'd let you know about it. Keep note though, if you keep having to inflate the same tire repeatedly, it might be damaged. And for example, here's a picture of my car, lucky me, that has a screw in it in the main tread. Now, because the tire is round and you can't see all the tread, and it's sort of dangerous to stick your hand and quickly run it across the tread. If you do it very slowly, because if that nail's sticking out and you zoom across it, you're going to cut your hand. Take it from someone who found out the hard way. So again, if you're going to do it, move your hand very slowly and sort of pat on it very lightly. Usually what I do is I have someone help me, and I'm not under the car. Don't get me in trouble for telling you to do this. You're standing off to the side of the car looking at the tread as someone slowly rolls forward. And then you're looking at the tire to see if there's you see anything in the tread. Now, if it's in the tread, the contact part that touches the ground, that can usually be patched. If it's the sidewall, that's what you see when you're looking at the wheel from the side. If it's there, it cannot be repaired. You'll need a new tire. The TPMS system is comprised of many components, and the sensors themselves in each tire can report an issue, or if the TPMS notices that there's a system error, it will blink the tire pressure indicator, and an audible sound many times will be played. What I suggest you do is, if this ever happens, pull over, make sure all the tires, all 4 or 5, are properly inflated, and if they are, then I suggest you take it into an ASE certified mechanic. A common issue that that causes this light to blink, this indicator, is that one of the tire pressure sensors it has an issue, and usually it's the battery is too weak. Let's give a brief overview of the whole TPMS system. It's usually comprised of 3 overall components. You have the TPM main module. It's the controller, the subsystem for this. It many times and usually does communicate with the PCM via the CAN bus, but that's an advanced topic. But it can talk to the main PCM. It has a receiver that will listen to all the TPS sensors. Each tire has a tire pressure sensor installed in it. And the reason I say 4 to 5 is that if you have a full spare, it usually will have a tire pressure sensor in it. If you have a donut, it will not. The TPM module works with the receiver to get data about each tire. It then uses the tire location to determine if it has an issue. What I mean is, the front tire is usually where the engine is, and since there's more weight on those tires, they're going to warm up quicker. Therefore, the PSI in that tire will increase quicker than, let's say, the rear tires that don't have as much weight as the front. So it can handle, again, it depends on the manufacturer and how it's designed, but usually the front tires where the engine is at uses different algorithm or parameters to see if they're not behaving correctly, either underinflated or overinflated. And if it detects an issue, it can talk to the PCM, let the PCM know, and it can turn on the TPS indicator on the dashboard. The receiver communicates with all the each TPS, which is in each tire pressure sensor in each tire. And what's neat is it has sort of a directional antenna, so it can tell if it's left or right, and probably front or rear, depending on design. And then it can also leverage signal strength to determine if it's a front tire, rear tire, spare tire. So that's pretty neat. That gives you some advantages. The newer systems do that. And the TPS is installed in each full-size tire. Once a specific wheel speed has been reached, let's say 15 miles an hour, it depends on the sensor, but usually 15 or 25, it will start to periodically radiate the following information, at least. The sensor ID, each sensor has its own unique ID. It's like you have your own social security number or driver's license. Each sensor has a unique ID. The PSI, the tire pressure for that wheel, the temperature for that wheel, and the battery status for that sensor. This is what a tire pressure sensor looks like. If you notice, there's the Schrader valve. That's where you fill it. You add air to the tire. And then this part is inside the tire wheel. It has a battery, and around 100,000 miles they start to fade. In theory, what I'm told is every time you have a tire changed, they're supposed to reseat and redo the gaskets that attach the TPS to the wheel. And what's nice is, since the receiver can determine the location of that tire, you can rotate the tire and you don't need to reconfigure the system. In other words, it can determine if you moved front to rear or however you rotate your tires, or you change out the spare. It will know, oh, okay, now that's the main tire and the spare is in the back. If the battery fails, unfortunately, a new sensor will need to be installed. The battery cannot be replaced. It's a solid body, and you can understand why. It's rotating and being shocked pretty hard in that tire. They wouldn't want it to come apart, so they make it all one solid piece. Unfortunately, if the battery does need to be replaced, or the TPS goes bad, you will need to install a whole new sensor. And a professional will have to do that because it's inside the tire. They'll have to remove the tire from the wheel, install a new sensor, and put the tire back on with all new gaskets and things like that. So so that's why a professional will need to do that. So let's wrap up by just sort of a quick review. The TPM is sort of the main guy in charge, the tire pressure monitor module, and it can communicate with the PCM. It usually does via the CAN bus. CAN bus is how all the modules in a car communicate. It usually has the TPM leverages a receiver that has a directional antenna that can sort of tell where a tire is, where it's receiving the information, so it can determine if it's the front, rear, front driver, front passenger, so spare, and each sensor, once it reaches a certain mile per hour, at least sends the sensor ID, tire PSI, tire temperature, and battery status to the receiver. Thank you for watching. I hope you found the information helpful.